In 18 months, Houston faces the world. 7 World Cup matches. 400,000 international visitors. A tournament that doesn't care if you're ready. But here's what's really happening. America's fourth largest city is using that deadline to force through 4 megaprojects that challenge everything Houston has always been. $700 million in construction. A 23-year-old stadium being rebuilt from the inside out while still hosting the Texans. And a light rail system trying to prove a highway city can move people without cars. Will they finish before kickoff, or will fans arrive to a city still figuring itself out? Houston has always been unapologetically car-dependent, sprawling across bayous and freeways, built on air conditioning and the philosophy that if you can't beat the heat, you drive through it. But something shifted. World Cup pressure, federal transit funding, and downtown business interests converged. Now the city isn't just preparing for matches. It's testing whether a metropolis designed around vehicles can perform like a walkable World Cup host without losing what made it Houston in the first place. So what's actually being built? And can a car city behave like a transit city for 39 days? Let's break it down. Project 1, NRG Stadium. NRG Stadium sits in a field of concrete and highway ramps 7 miles south of downtown. It's the NFL's first retractable roof stadium, home to the Texans, the Houston Rodeo, and multiple Super Bowls. For 2 decades, this building has handled some of the loudest crowds in American sports. In 2026, it enters a different league. 7 World Cup matches between June 14th and July 4th. Germany, Portugal, the Netherlands. A round of 32. A round of 16 on Independence Day. Most of those games kick off when the outside air hits 95 degrees with 80% humidity, making the climate-controlled bowl one of Houston's most critical pieces of infrastructure. But here's the problem. The stadium is 23 years old, and age shows in ways broadcast cameras don't catch. A 2023 assessment of the NRG Park campus found $1.9 billion in capital needs over the next 30 years. The World Cup accelerated that timeline. County officials have approved over $50 million in immediate upgrades, focused heavily on the unglamorous systems that actually move people. Elevators, escalators, vertical circulation pathways, all the infrastructure that determines whether 70,000 fans can enter, climb, and exit without turning concourses into heat-soaked bottlenecks. Control rooms are being overhauled, video boards upgraded, back-of-house systems refreshed after 2 decades of near-constant use. On the surface, it may look like the same stadium that opened in 2002. Under the hood, it's being retooled for back-to-back international fixtures with fans from 6 countries all trying to move at once. And yes, the deadline is absolute. There's no postponing Germany versus Curaçao because the escalators aren't done. But while NRG prepares for the global spotlight, downtown Houston is facing a different challenge. How do you make a city built for cars suddenly work for people on foot? Project 2, Main Street Promenade. For decades, downtown Houston operated on a strange logic. You could work there for years without touching the street. Climate-controlled tunnels connect office towers below grade. Skywalks link buildings above. It kept workers out of the heat. It also kept life underground. The World Cup is flipping that equation. Running through the heart of the business district, the Main Street Promenade is transforming 7 blocks of Main from a car corridor into a permanent pedestrian spine. The timeline? Completion before the first fans arrive. Traffic lanes that once carried vehicles are being raised to sidewalk level and handed back to pedestrians. Designers are layering in shade trees, street furniture, outdoor seating zones, and patio space so restaurants and bars can expand onto the street. By the time construction wraps, the tree canopy along this stretch is expected to more than double, aimed directly at blocking summer heat for people walking between hotels, light rail stations, and fan zones. At night, upgraded lighting, public art, and refreshed building facades are meant to pull activity out of the tunnels and back onto the street. The promenade stitches together metro light rail stops, historic buildings converted into bars and event spaces, green pockets, and the pathways leading toward Buffalo Bayou Park. For the World Cup, that makes downtown feel less like an office park and more like a continuous corridor for fans moving between venues and gathering points. The challenge? Houston has a history of building bold pedestrian infrastructure that gets used during festivals, then sits empty the other 340 days of the year. Without sustained activation after the tournament, this could become another expensive experiment in making a car city walkable. But the vision persists. Transform Main Street during the World Cup, prove demand exists, and use that momentum to expand pedestrian-first design across downtown. For a city that spent a century prioritizing vehicles, that's not cosmetic redesign. It's a test of identity. And if you're enjoying this breakdown of Houston's World Cup transformation, hit subscribe. We've got deep dives on megaprojects from Miami to Montreal coming up next. But Main Street is only half the equation. Project 3, George R. Brown Convention Center Expansion. 3 blocks east of Main Street, the George R. Brown Convention Center is undergoing its largest expansion since opening in 1987. The $450 million project is adding 350,000 square feet of new exhibition space, a 100,000 square foot ballroom, and upgraded circulation systems designed to handle convention-scale crowds without bottlenecking. For the World Cup, the timing is critical. FIFA requires host cities to provide large-scale venues for media operations, sponsor activations, and fan festivals. Houston is betting on the GRB expansion to deliver exactly that. The new ballroom will be one of the largest in Texas, rivaling Dallas and Austin for major events. The exhibition halls are being reconfigured with modern loading docks, upgraded HVAC to handle Houston's summer humidity, and flexible layouts that can shift between trade shows, tournaments, and public festivals. Construction is already visible along Avenida de las Americas. Steel frames are rising. Glass facades are being installed. The expansion is scheduled to complete in late 2025, giving organizers 6 months to configure the space before World Cup operations begin. But here's the risk. Convention centers are expensive to build and even more expensive to operate. Houston is adding this capacity during a period when convention attendance nationally is still recovering from pandemic-era disruptions. If the facility doesn't secure major bookings post-World Cup, the expansion becomes a fiscal weight rather than an economic engine. Supporters argue Houston's central location, international airport connectivity, and lack of state income tax make it a natural convention hub. Critics point to similar expansions in Phoenix and San Diego that haven't delivered projected returns. What's certain is this: for 39 days in 2026, the GRB will be operating at full capacity. What happens after that depends on execution. From convention halls to street-level transformation, the final piece of Houston's puzzle isn't about where fans gather. It's about how they move. Project 4, Metro Next. Houston's metro system has always been functional, but never transformative. 3 light rail lines covering 23 miles. Decent ridership during business hours. Almost invisible during evenings and weekends. The World Cup is exposing that limitation. Fans arriving from Europe, Asia, and Latin America expect transit systems that connect stadiums, hotels, airports, and downtown without requiring a rental car. Enter Metro Next, a $7.5 billion, 20-year expansion plan that accelerates key phases specifically for 2026. The most visible change? Frequency upgrades and extended hours across all 3 existing rail lines during the tournament. Metro is adding 47 new light rail vehicles to the fleet, increasing capacity by nearly 30%. Service intervals on the Red Line, which connects downtown to NRG Stadium, are being shortened to every 6 minutes during peak periods. Trains will run later into the night to accommodate post-match crowds. Beyond frequency, Metro is upgrading stations along the tournament corridor. New wayfinding signage in multiple languages. Real-time arrival boards. Expanded platform shelters with shade structures, critical when passengers are waiting in 90-degree heat. The Red Line itself becomes Houston's World Cup spine. It runs from the University of Houston through Midtown, downtown, the Museum District, and directly to the NRG Stadium stop. For fans staying downtown, it's a 20-minute ride to the matches. No parking, no traffic, no navigating unfamiliar highways. But here's the challenge. Metro's long-term expansion includes bus rapid transit lines, park and ride expansions, and potential heavy rail connections to the airport. Very little of that will be operational by June 2026. What fans will experience is an improved version of the system Houston already has, not a fundamentally reimagined network. If the enhanced service during the World Cup drives sustained ridership increases, Metro could justify accelerating future phases. If ridership drops back to pre-tournament levels, the political will to fund expansions weakens. For Houston, Metro Next isn't just infrastructure. It's a referendum on whether a car city can evolve into a transit city or whether it remains committed to the highway model that defined its growth. Houston has always been a city of extremes: sprawl and density, innovation and tradition. A place that invented air conditioning as urban strategy and built an economy on oil, aerospace, and medical research. But now it's entering a different kind of test. For megaprojects, $700 million in combined investment, a global deadline that cannot move. These aren't proposals. They're funded. They're under construction. They're being delivered on a fixed timeline with the world watching. What comes next depends on execution. If Houston finishes strong, it proves a car-dependent city can adapt without losing its identity. If it stumbles, it becomes a cautionary tale about infrastructure ambition meeting fiscal reality. The real question isn't whether Houston can host 7 matches. It's whether the city that emerges on the other side looks different than the one that went in. What kind of Houston do you see after the final whistle? Drop your take in the comments. And if stories like this interest you, subscribe. We cover the world's boldest infrastructure gambles and the cities betting everything on them.